Despite all my information, the thoughts were still there. But because I have practiced being aware of my thoughts, I could identify how the thoughts were mine, as in happening inside my brain. But they were not me. They were part of my bounty of ideas and messages I had received from multiple resources that had subconsciously penetrated my psyche. My ability to notice the thoughts and distinguish them from my own authentic ideas helped me source where they were coming from. Those thoughts were not me, and I had a choice about whether to act on them or not. In apologetic inquiry number 20, can you recall a time when you had a body-shaming thought about someone else's body? Can you identify where some of those ideas came from? Being intimately connected to our thoughts is not enough to change our behaviors. Knowing why we do something will not necessarily keep us from doing it. Doing is a choice. It is an act of will. Doing often demands that we act despite our thoughts. When we are no longer an autopilot, we are forced to deal with the discomfort of new action. Think of radical self-love as a resistant training against our decade-old tide. Calcified thoughts, adopting actions that promote radical self-love is comparable to working a muscle that has not been moved in years. It's going to be sore and tender. You are going to be tired, but the exhaustion and frustration will lessen over time, and there will be ease where there once was pain. Old habit of body shaming yourself, judging the bodies of others under your breath, acting from a sense of failure or lack of self-worth will become uncomfortable behaviors, and radical self-love action will begin to feel like the path of least resistance. Over time, you will notice that your thoughts flow in an alignment with your behaviors. The junk in your brain will start to occupy less space, and when it starts to clutter your thoughts, you will recognize it and move it out. You are thinking and acting in radical self-love. Have you ever met someone and thought, whoa, Mary just emanates love from her whole being? The experience of being around someone who radiates a discernible energy is an act of being. Though it is not always a positive, discernible energy, it is an act of being. Through it's not always a positive experience, we engage every day with people whose energy is not welcoming. Sometimes even downright hostile. But we also meet people who radiate an incredible love. Children are glorious example of this ability to radiate love. Having not yet experienced layers of body shame, young kids are reflections of the source relationship of all our beings. Love, we too can access that source relationship. Through the power of thoughts and actions, we become who we have always been. We enter a new way of being in our bodies and in the world. We return to our inherent state of being, radical self-love. Radical reflection Notice the next time your actions are not in alignment with your thoughts. The discomfort you feel is trying to tell you something. It is pushing you beyond you just thinking of doing toward radical self-love being. Four pillars of practice. Four pillars of practice. We know that adopting a radical self-love lifestyle is a process of thinking, doing, and being. But changing the way we think, act, and are in our daily lives can feel like an assignment of planetary proportion. Implementing practices to structure in this individual is the equivalent of turning on the high beams amid the fog. Rather than, rather than collapsing under an avalanche of new ideas and behaviors, we can instill signposts and guardrails that helps us know if we are still on the road to radical self-love. The four pillars of practice can help us curl our willy thinking, fortify love-laden action, and give us access to new way of being in the world. The pillars are taking out the toxic, mind matters, unapologetic action, collective compassion. Dismantling body shame and body terrorism is a process of de-indoctrination, requiring that we excavate the thoughts we have internalized about bodies and evict the voice of judgment, hierarchy, and shame. Remember when I recounted how we fear of sharing a selfie was an early prompt and in my radical self-love journey. The voice I heard in my head telling me I was too fat, ugly, black to post the photo was not my voice. It was the propaganda of body shame, the outside voice. Our inherent sense of radical self-love doesn't speak to us with cruelty or vigorousness. Radical self-love does not malign our gender, sexuality, race, disability, weight, age, agony, scars, illnesses. A world of body terrorism that impugns us because of our identities is the only thing that we would dare speak of to us. That would dare speak to us from a lifetime of shame and judgment. The four pillars speak to us with such malice, just as the three pieces offer us a framework for diversing from a lifetime of shame and judgment. The four pillars teach us to make peace with our bodies by distinguishing and diminishing the outside voice and cultivating the practice of listening more deeply in our authentic selves, our radical self-love voice, our inside voice. Radical reflection. I have always had a very loud voice. My mother would constantly admonish me for talking too loudly. Use your inside voice, she would say. Next time you hear someone speaking body shame over themselves, politely suggest that they use their inside voice and share what that phrase means. The first two pillars, taking out the toxic and mind matters, ask us to imagine the inside and outside voices as though they were volume knobs in our minds. These radical self-love practices teach us how to adjust the sound and filter the static, turning up an authentic voice and turning out our body shame brainwashing. The pillar in apologetic action integrate our thinking with our physical selves, moving our radical self-love practice out of our heads and into our bodies. Lastly, the pillar of collective compassion synthesize how we animate radical self-love, learning to radiate love through our own being and into the being of others. At the end of the book, you will find the radical self-love toolkit. It offers concrete action steps designed to help you move through the thinking, doing, being process, ultimately landing you in the seat of your most powerful location, or connected to your inherent sense of radical self love. 1. Pillar 1, taking out the toxic. To live in a world of body terrorism is akin to forcibly imbibing 3711 big gulps of body shame daily. From the moment we turn on television, radio, computer in the morning until we close the laptop or put the phone on silent at night, we are inundated with messages relying our supposed inherent deficiency. The average adult consumes 15 and 15 hours of media each day, and even when they don't contain over body shame, the shows we watch, the music we listen to, and the articles we read deliver messages about bodies in the world, including our own. Taking in toxic messages blocks our pathway to radical self-love without any real effort on our part. Just walking down the street or standing in the grocery store checkout line can be a stroll down body shame line thanks to billboards, but advertising and tabloid covers. By engaging in the everyday activities of our society, we subconsciously absorb views about our bodies that are antithetical to radical self-love. Therefore, being connected to our thoughts is crucial process for battling body shame. Marketers diversify their body terrorism tactics with both conscious and subconscious directive. There is nothing subconscious about don't delay, lose that unsightly belly fat now. Advertisements like this are designed for immediacy, urging you to act now because your body is awful. In apologetic inquiry number 21, what was your last body shame impulse purchase? Can you recall what thoughts moved you to make the purchase? Equally sinister are the advertisements that reminds us by repetition and erasure that unless we are youthful, blonde, thin, able-bodied, and muscular, with perfectly white teeth and glossy hair, we are fatally flawed and we need their product. Eventually, by the way, no one is all those things forever. Advertiser and product makers want more your money now. Are they willing to wait until you have watched 60 hours of television actors with perfect ivory teeth and have finally awakened to the epiphany that you must buy teeth whitening strips? Of course. But why bother waiting? Body shame profit complex. Profiteers know it is easier and more economically efficient to sell us body shame directly. To simply say, you suck, rather than lure to it. They prefer to highlight your epic flaws in grand details on repeat until you get up off your couch and go give them your money. Not only does this toxic messaging impact our spending, turning us into determined buyers, but it also impacts how we talk about ourselves and others. Let's say you are out shopping for new jeans, and as you begin to try them on, you think aloud, I have to get rid of this unsightly belly flap. You know you have never used the word unsightly and flap together, but suddenly you are a parrot for body shame advertisers, speaking their carefully crafted messages over your own body. Toxic messages became our internal outside voice. After we've ingested enough body shame, this declaration became the narrative thoughts which we speak about our own bodies, often without even noticing. What can we do to get out of toxic sludge of media marketing? Limit our time, our media intake. If we cannot limit it, be intentional about what we ingest. Next time you are watching television, notice what commercials your favorite shows air between scenes. Those commercials indicate what advertisers believe about you as a customer. Commercials use racial and gender stereotype to target your wallet because they know that doing so works. This is perfect place to put best interest buying into practice. Television shows makes money through rating and advertising. Each show you watch put money in some producers and advertisers' pocket. Ask yourself, does this show and its commercial align with my radical self-values? If the answer is no, then the next question is, why am I giving them my money? If we think of our time and brain capacity as dollars, we may become a bit more particular about how we spend them. When we are connected to our thoughts, we can identify how they are being dragged along by toxic media. If you have body shame hangover after you watch, read, or listen to something, it might be time to take out the toxic. Tool 1 and 2, listed in chapter 5, offer concrete ways you can minimize toxic body shame in your daily life. Pillar number 2, mind matters. If pillar 1 is the equivalent of a body shame yard sale, except we don't want anyone else to buy this junk, the pillar 2 is emptying out the attic and basement and considering that we might do with all the amazing space we free up. Once we have stopped imbibing body shame on a daily basis, we can begin to explore how our old ways of thinking have kept us stuck in cycles that dishonor our bodies. Body shame not only shapes how we see our bodies, it also clouds the lens through which we view our lives. If living radical self-love life is a process of thinking, doing, and being, then Mind Matters asks us to try on some new mental attire. Let's call this session, let's call the season's last collection of Radical Self Love Runway. Over the years, we have collected some creepy beliefs about our bodies. We've been taught that our bodies are entities to control and subjugate. We have treated our bodies like machines that are always on the fritz. In Eve Ensler's 2011 TED Talk, Suddenly My Body, she detailed how she spent most of her life disembodied, 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 never considering her body a part of her being. They remained true until she wrote the Vagina monologue during a period in which she describes it as utensil, an instrument she used to get things done. It was then, when she got cancer, that she realized her body was not an implant at her disposal, but a part of her. Her body did not have cancer, she had cancer. Eva discovered that she and her body would have to integrate if she wanted to fight the disease that had attacked them both. They needed each other. The concept of Mind Matters asks us to reconsider our relationship with our bodies. How do we end the Cold War with it and become allies in achieving our best lives? The pillar of practice is about reconciliation. In her poem 3, Nayera Wahid captured the "I want to be your friend." I took a long breath. You replied, "I've been waiting my whole life for this." I guess what your brain is part of your body. Why am I yelling this? Because too often we treat our brains as through its separate operating system, tucked away in a room we call the skull. Our tendency to divorce our brains from our bodies is one of the sneaky ways in which body shame thrives. Isolating our brains gives us permission to treat them differently. Depression, bipolar disorder, and other depression, bipolar disorder, and other example of neurodivergence diver, divergence diversions are stigmatized because we are unwilling to extend the same care and treatment to our brains that we afford our bodies. If I broke my arm and never went to see a doctor, not only would I be in extreme pain, but the people in my life would be incensed by such a reckless choice. Yes, we make a statement like, "It's all your head," all the time minimizing the experience of our brain and neglecting their care. Reintegrating our brains and our bodies is a necessity for radical self love life. Pillar 2 highlights how our reintegration gives us access to new levels of care and offers us new opportunities to examine our thoughts patterns and, with hard work, create new ones. I may never get rid of my clinical depression, but I can disentangle it from body shame. Mind Matters tools like meditation and reframing have helped me see my depression as other unique way my body exists in the world rather than a shame to avoid or hide. Radical reflection, phrase like get over it and it's all in your head are rooted in ableism. They are body terrorism against non-normative brains. Let's stop telling people to get over it and start asking, how can I help you heal? Expanding our mind's capacity for radical self-love means we may need to tear down some mental walls. To tear down some mental walls. If radical self-love is an open floor plan, expected our space for connection and joy, rigidity and judgment are concrete walls cutting off visibility and partitioning us off from our best life. Pillar 2 is about expansive thinking, and expansive thinking is not possible unless we see our bodies and our lives with nuance. We are not either or being. We compromise a multitude of gray shades, inviting love into our contradictions and uncertainties take a reckless ball of those concrete slabs of separating, giving us much more space to decorate with love. Check out tools 3, 4, 5 in chapter 5 for powerful illustrations and how mind matters can create the mental spaciousness we need to practice radical self-love.